Okay, we're gonna complete one more entree problem, and this one here is going to be related to exponential decay. So a New York City apartment had a total of 500 residents in the building. The landlord constantly raised residents' rent, so the residents started moving out and the population of the building decreased by approximately 10.5% every month. So we want to write a function that determines the population P of M of the building after M amount of months. So some things I want to recall is that since we're looking here to see how much the population decreased, and it's decreasing by 10.5%, we know that it's a percent, so we'll know that we're dealing with exponential decay. So we want to recall the exponential decay formula, which is the function of x is equal to, and this should be in your notes, a times 1 minus r to the x power. And some things we got to recall is that a represents our initial value. R represents our rate as a decimal. And x represents time. And sometimes that x can be a t, or it depends on whatever the question gives us. So the question they're asking us is to write a function that determines the population P of M of the building after M amount of months. So just by reading this, I can see that P of M represents the population of the building, and M represents the amount of months. Okay, so let's reread this question one more time to see if we could find any information that can help us fill out some of these values. So a New York City apartment has a total of 500 residents in the building. The landlord constantly raises the residents' rent, so the residents started moving out and the population of the building decreased by approximately 10.5% every month. So let's see if we could figure out a value for A, a value for R, and if there's a value for X. So A represents our initial value. There were 500 residents in the building at the beginning, so our initial value is 500. R is going to be a percent that we want to take it out of a percent. So we see that we're decreasing at approximately 10.5%. And I'm going to circle this percentage right here because I don't want to write that R as a percent. I want to write it in its proper decimal form. So I got to remember that I have to take this 10.5% and turn it into its proper decimal form. Anytime we do that is we take that percentage. So we take 10, we go to calculator, take 10.5 if you need to use a calculator, and all you're doing is you're dividing it by 100. So 10.5% when you divide that by 100 is, you see 0.105 in the calculator, but we could say that there's a 0 before that. So 0.105. Okay, so our rate is 0.105. And our x value. So in this example, they didn't give us the amount of time, but they said that M represents the amount of months. So M is going to be our time. So let's start by rewriting the exponential decay function. Function of x is equal to a times 1 minus r to the x power. And now we're just going to plug in some values. So the function of x is equal to, what's our a value? We see it right over here. A is 500. We're going to continue writing times 1 minus, what's our rate? Our R values are rate. So our rate is 0.105, 0.105. going to close those parentheses, and to the x power. But for this, again, they told us that time is months, so, and that is represented by m, so to the m power. Now, is there anything we can simplify? So we have a function here. I notice in the parentheses there's something I can simplify, so we're going to rewrite this and simplify those parentheses. The function of x is equal to 500, 1 minus 0.105. Now again, please be careful with this. So we do 1 minus 0.105. That right there is 0.895. So 0.895 to the m power. And right there, that is your exponential decay function. Okay, so we're going to continue assuming the rate decreases by the same amount each month. Will the population of the building be cut in half by the 5th month? Okay, so we know that there's 500 residents in the building, and they want to know if the population is going to be cut in half. So if the population currently is 500 people, if we cut that in half, we're dividing this by 2. We do 500 divided by 2. And if you do 500 divided by 2, we're trying to see if the population will be 250 after 5 months. So let's take a look. How do I figure this out? Well, we know that months is represented by m, and we're trying to find the 5th month. So m is equal to 5, and we're just going to reuse that function that we just created. So the function of x is equal to 500 times 0.895. First, I'm going to rewrite the function to the m power. Now we're going to plug in our value for m. So the function of x is equal to 500 times 0.895 to the, let's take a look right over here, to the m power. So m is 5, so to the 5th power. Now we're going to evaluate. Now remember, we have to follow PEMDAS, the order of operations. So I see 500 times 0.895 to the 5th power, but we don't want to multiply first. First, we have to see, is there anything to simplify inside the parentheses? We cannot simplify 0.895. There's nothing to add to it. There's nothing to multiply with it inside the parentheses. So there's nothing to do inside the parentheses. Is there any exponents? We have to the 5th power. So that means we want to evaluate for that exponent. So we're going to do 0.895 to the 5th power. So when we did that, we got 0.5742. We're just going to write a few of those numbers, not all of them. So 500 times 0.5742. And now we can multiply 500 and this. So we're going to multiply this by 500. You can do that right in the calculator. This is okay. I don't expect you guys to know this at the top of your head. There we go. And this here is equal to 287.13. Now we're talking about people. So what's the most logical answer if we're talking about people? So if we're going to round this, we're going to round this to the nearest whole number. We're going to say approximately 287 people. So we did all the math, but you still have to answer the question. Assuming the rate decreases by the same amount each month, will the population of the building be cut in half by the 5th month? So we said half would be 250. After 5 months, there's approximately 287 people. So the population of the building will not be cut in half by the 5th month. It will have approximately 287 people, which is more than half, or which is more than 250 people, which is half of the population. And again, make sure you're showing your work, make sure you're explaining your work, and that's how you get full credit.